Guys, so this is what if. Well, what if Robin was a Power Ranger part 2, guys? Now, I basically, this is a what if, a part 2 to what Robin was a Power Ranger. Sorry, I guess I'm stuttering. Because this is all unscripted. And practically all my videos are unscripted. But basically, let's just get into it, guys. And basically, last time I left off in episode 2. And I don't really think I should recap this, but if you haven't seen part one, go watch it. Or if you just want a recap of Robin's abilities with his Power Rangers, he has the base abilities of a Power Ranger, any normal Power Ranger, plus increased agility, speed, and stamina, just like Power Rangers have, and basically making him a lot more stronger, better, and just way more just superior to Batman since he does have his Robin training, plus on top of that, the training and the skill of a Power Ranger. So all Power Rangers know some sort of martial arts or swordsmanship or gunmanship or something to match with their theme for being a Power Ranger. Also, basically, on top of that, he also has a special ability. Basically, him being a part of a made up Power Ranger team. What was it? Because it's kind of like Mystic Force, because all the Power Rangers have a special ability that they can use without the morpher or whatever. Basically, Robin's abilities is teleportation, but he can only teleport in dark spaces, like in shadows, like from shadow to shadow. So he can't teleport in the daylight. He can't teleport at somewhere with daylight. So he has to teleport somewhere that is dark, or he has to teleport because he has to go into a shadow, teleport into another shadow, or into another dark area. Doesn't even have to be a shadow. It just has to be a dark or pitch black room. Now, basically, also, Robin also has, pretty much a lot of gear and the same amount of gadgets. Is just that they're all powered up or supercharged by the power grid. So, that was a little bit of recap on Robin's abilities, and just dive right into the story. And enough talking, because I already wasted like 2 minutes. So, let's get into it, guys. Now, we start our story off in episode 3, Welcome to Happy Harbor at Star City, July 17th. And basically, as we see is nighttime, we see some thugs or some, crooks basically get stopped by a red arrow. It being shown to be Speedy. Basically, a scene that Tombstone would have been looking around, finding Speedy. Now, Speedy would have, tried to stop, Tombstone's pretty much, trading, and pretty much as he was fighting Tombstone and taking him out. Basically, we see that Robin, Aqualad, and Kid Flash would have jumped in, pretty much, taking down the thugs. Basically, Robin not morphing at that time, since Robin still doesn't truly, like, a lot of the times rely on his morphing form. Mainly, he only relies on it if he really needs a big helping hand, or he needs, like, an extra, set of strength. Basically, we see how Robin, Kid Flash and Aqualad try to, pretty much persuade Speedy into pretty much helping them out or to be a part of their team. As we see, eventually, pretty much Speedy does or they do take out Tombstone, and pretty much Speedy says he's not going to be part of the Junior Justice League. Basically, I'm saying I'm not going to be a sidekick. I'm not going to be treated like I'm not going to be treated like I was before. Him going into the shadows and leaving them all shocked. Basically, we switch off from that, basically getting to the fire intro of season 1, and now taking switch back with pretty much Robin and Wally arriving to Mount Justice, pretty much meeting up with Megan, Aqualad, and Connor. As we see this, pretty much the beginning of the episode goes somewhere the same. Basically, Red Tornado is still telling them that there's no mission for them to do. Basically saying that, there's nothing really happening that they can do yet. Now, basically, they're left, and pretty much they're kind of distraught, but they, are told by Red Tornado to acquaint themselves with each other. So basically, the episode goes from the same. They get a little tour of Mount Justice. Robin's still saying the whole entire thing about how, everything happening. And pretty much we see that, the episode goes somewhere the same. All of them, finding out about Megan and her cookies or whatever. Basically, Robin not really having a different reaction to this. Him still feeling some sort of mental pain since he was just had his mind, talked through out of nowhere. Now, basically, we see that the team, do slightly apologize or do slightly, you know, take Megan's apology. Now Megan does try to persuade Connor into coming with the rest of the team, and coming to see Bioship. Now Connor reluctantly agrees, but we basically see Megan show them about Bioship. Basically, Robin saying it looks pretty cool. Now, Robin at that point, he would have been thinking about morphing grid, or not morphing grid, but would have been thinking about Zords, since he would have a lot of research or pretty much history that Batman attained on the Red Ranger, on the original, like the latest Power Ranger team in the DC universe. Basically, pretty much that universe's Power Ranger team would have had a lot of knowledge on the grid force, or on the power grid, and about Zords and all that other stuff. Basically, Robin actually looking at the Battleship and him actually trying to think if he even has a Zord, since each Power Ranger did have their own unique Zord. But in this latest version, if I didn't mention this before in part 1, basically all the Power Rangers in the latest version of the Power Ranger team in this universe, they would have gems that would mainly change and morph to their preferred Power Ranger color or spectrum, or a Power Ranger that would match their aesthetic. Basically, Robin just having a new black and red type of Power Ranger aesthetic. Now, basically, him just having the combined colors of red and black Ranger. But basically, we get switched on to pretty much the rest of the team in Bioship, basically, flying around, and Megan still showing them a little bit of, Martian tricks, her shape-shifting into Robin, and also Aqualad. No, it was a shape-shifting into Robin and Wally. And basically, as they're doing this, Megan asks, what about the Power Rangers? Or what about, the morphing? And how about, you morphing and whatever? Pretty much Robin says okay, and pretty much she starts to, do the poses and eventually morphs. Basically him grabbing his stone and morphing, basically him turning into, or morphing into his Power Ranger form. Basically him saying, well, how about that? Now basically, this would be the only secondary outfit Robin would have, since Robin's secondary outfit would be his normal outfit, plus this, thing. Now, still, Wally would have still asked about the whole entire phasing through walls thing Martian Manhunter can do, but Megan would have he doesn't shed that she can't do it since it's a complex skill. But we get switched on to them being told by the distress call from from Red Tornado about, some trouble with Happy Harbor. Now, as they go over there to investigate, they get hit by a tornado, and Bioship gets caught in it. But they are able to, semi-land gently. Basically, them getting out of Bioship. We see that Robin, since he never de-transformed, he would already be in his Power Ranger morphing form. Him basically vanishing away from the team as he tried to talk to him. Basically, him going up against Twirler himself, or Twister, don't remember his name. Now, basically, as he was fighting, he actually wouldn't have been losing. He would actually be holding himself, or holding his, own against Twister. But Twister would have been hitting him back and forth, overpowering him and pushing him backwards. Now, since it was daylight and it wasn't that much shadow in the, pretty much was it, place or building they were fighting in, basically, Robin didn't have any real leverage to teleport. Basically, we see that Robin would have taken out, a morphing grid powered bow staff and would have started to, or not bow staff, but batons. Basically, red batons. Basically, him running towards Twister alongside the other team. But the rest of the team, basically, them going up against Twister. With Robin's help, plus Connor's strength, they would be able to actually overpower Twister, the fight being progressed out of the building faster than original. Twister, seeing that he was being overpowered, he would have used his, overpowering, or his newer move, basically overpowering the team and shooting lightning, making huge tornadoes. Basically, this happening so quick that the team wouldn't think for a second that this was Red Tornado, making that mistake about pretty much thinking that as Red Tornado. So basically, they didn't have the same scene. Pretty much the fight progressing faster. As they pretty much get up. Pretty much, I feel like in this canon they wouldn't be as angry at Megan. So basically, Megan would be left behind because the team would have been sprinting off and wouldn't just left Megan behind. Megan would be left there thinking about it because in this canon she would actually get injured but her Martian durability and stuff like that would have saved her. And basically, you see that the rest of the team would have ran off from Megan and pretty much would have gone after Twister. Now, as Megan would think about something, and basically would have all the other thing, she would go back to Red Tornado, trying to tell him about the thing, but she would still have the plan that she did originally, having that spark of creativity. And basically, as we get switched to pretty much Connor, Wally, and Robin and Aqualad going up against pretty much Twister. But see that Twister or the fight would have progressed, basically them winning actually, because Robin and Connor would have been using their brute strength to overpower pretty much Twister. But as the fight was going somewhere, because Twister was using air manipulation to bend them and throw them around, basically Robin started to use more of his actual training for being Robin, plus the training that the Power Ranger or the Morphin Grid gave him. Basically, he would be going like demon time on Twister, straight up going Batman like. Him gliding in the air, landing all Batman like, throwing Power Grid batarangs or throwing birds. That's what his batarangs are called. Throwing birds towards pretty much what's a Twister, basically making the explosions a lot more damageable, a lot more brutal, basically making dents on Twister. As this is happening, Twister would have punched or got a good hit on Robin, basically pushing Robin backwards and morphing him, or pretty much punching him out of his morphing form. Basically, him falling down to the ground in civilian clothes and coughing up some blood. Now, as we see, pretty much Red Tornado would have shown up, or presumably Red Tornado would have shown up, basically telling the team to get lost or to stand aside because he'll deal with this. As the fight between Twister and Red Tornado would progress, we would soon see that the fight was almost by the end, Twister winning, but we would see that Twister would have been tricked, basically began being shapeshifted into Red Tornado to trick the robot to get under his skin and actually caught him off guard. Robin and Connor would have both been punching him back and forth, basically the suit being way more damaged. Aqua still hitting, Twister with the anchor. Basically, the fight going somewhere the same, or their ambush against Twister going the same. Now, as we see that the episode would have ended off, Megan seeing the android body inside of Twister, killing it. People thinking, or Robin thinking that it was a guy. And pretty much Megan would have shown that it was an android, saying that it wasn't alive. And basically, as we see the rest of the team pretty much, just okay. I mean, more or less, relieved that it wasn't a human being that Megan killed. And basically, we could switch back to the scientists that made the android or Twister. Basically, them talking about the situation. And them saying that is a good, a good type of, experiment, if you could say, or experience. And as we see this happen, we progress later on away from this, point. Basically, us seeing that Red Tornado would have, slightly congratulated the team, but would have tried to find out what happened, or where this came from, or where Twister came from. And basically, pretty much, we see that they would start the same argument with Red Tornado, Robin being more calm-headed and not really, caring that much. Now, after episode 3, we get switched up to episode 4. Episode 4, I'm sick and tired of narrating it, but I got to. And honestly, it's a pretty good episode. So let's move on to episode 4, Drop Zone. We start our story off basically in episode 4 when we see pretty much a man in some sort of cloak, us getting shown that it was Bane. The beginning of the episode, the first 2 minutes of the episode would have gone the same. Basically, us getting skipped by the intro, and us seeing that the team would have been on their way to this island where we saw Bane in the beginning of the episode. Basically, Robin having a flashback, pretty much about the team or the mission that Batman was giving them. A covert mission to find out intel about this island and about where they're smuggling or what they're smuggling. Basically, saying it's purely recon and telling them not to be, caught or not to be revealed. Now, as we see this happen, we pretty much see that Robin was told, strictly by Batman, to only use his morphine form if it was necessary, if it was completely necessary. Now, basically, Robin would have said okay, and pretty much we still see that Robin would have a slight, still a connection to the morphine grid with his gym because the Power Rangers and Dino Charger with their gyms, basically, or the Power Ranger gyms, they would be able to pretty much, tap into the strength of the gyms without actually morphing. Basically, Robin not having the abilities of the thing, but him still being able to slightly teleport in the shadows, giving Robin that type of edge in a fight without morphing. And basically, as we see this happen, we pretty much see that Robin and the rest of the team would have been in their outfits still, and pretty much we see that Aqualad would have been dropped out of, Bioship in the water, him going under the surveillance or the traps in the beginning at the front of the island, him, hacking or pretty much setting off or prepping the sensors to not, let his team get caught. Basically, the team, getting given their hooks. Basically, Robin not actually needing a hook, and he would just teleport out of Bioship under a tree because it was nighttime, so he could basically teleport anywhere. So yeah, so basically at nighttime, his teleportation power is just teleportation. He just can teleport anywhere. It's dark and it's nighttime, so it's basically OP. Basically, we see how Robin would have teleported, him not needing to morph, but he would say that it would be a little bit more of a strain on his body without him morphing and teleporting. So he could only teleport for about 20 times, like 10 times without morphing until his body starts to get really bad repercussions, where he starts to feel really, nauseous. And basically, as we see, Superboy doesn't really use a hook. He falls down or he lands Superman style, but makes a huge crater. Robin, pretty much scolding him for, I'm pretty sure her covert mission doesn't include, making a whole seismic event. Basically, him pointing at the crater. But the team would have gone on with their mission, then running into the forest. And as they're running into the forest, going up the mountains, they would eventually see, two groups of people colliding with each other. Basically, Wally going over there to try to figure out what's going on. Robin already leaving or already into the shadows. Now, as we see, pretty much Wally would have been running. He would have tripped and he would have fell right into the fire or the gunfire between Bane and the other group of people, or the Cobra. Basically, a scene that Wally would have said, so for covert. So much for covert. Basically, the gunfire being pointed towards Wally. Now, basically, as we see the gunfire would have been pointed towards Wally and the rest of the team, we said Robin would have came out the shadows, basically going the same type of fighting style, but he would have gone up against Bane. Pretty much Bane throwing Robin into a wall or into a tree, throwing Robin through the tree, straight up breaking the tree, but it would be like a halfway dead tree. Robin would have got back up, basically him tapping into a little bit more of the grid force with his gym, not enough to morph, but enough to, harness some of the strength. Basically, since in Power Ranger Dino Charged, if you've seen that scene, I think in episode 2 or episode 1, where the Power Rangers, or all three of the Power Rangers, used their gyms, or they didn't really consciously use them in their pockets, basically trying to push a car off the man. Basically, they would push it off, not them being morphed, by the way, them literally just getting their gyms. They would have pushed the whole car almost like about a whole building length into the sky, like it blasting off into the sky. Now, basically, Robin could tap into the Power Ranger strength, and if you just don't know how strong Power Rangers are, just look it up. Just look up how strong the Red Ranger is, or look up feats or the strongest feats Power Rangers have been shown to do. Just look it up. Trust you. Or just go out to a death battle and go to the the Red Ranger section of them talking about the Red Ranger. And basically, let's just get into it, guys. And basically, we see our story progress later on. Basically, us saying that Robin would have gave Bane a run for his money, knocking him out in one punch. Basically, Robin, not being, super durable, just being strong, meaning that his fist would have been slightly, bruised, but since he had gloves, it wouldn't be hurting that much. And basically, as you see, the rest of the team would have been talking about the leadership. Basically, Wally and Robin still arguing about who's leader. But basically, you'll see that pretty much the team would have been arguing, but eventually they would have came across Bane. Basically, Bane would have told them the same thing, but Megan would try to peer into Bane's mind, but we see that Bane was trained for this, and his mind was way too, locked down. Yeah, as we can switch to pretty much the Cobra, them doing their whole entire smuggling, we pretty much see that Bane, does work with them, or they do negotiate with Bane, Bane giving them directions to the Cobra base, or the base where they're smuggling it. And basically, Bane walks off and shows them an entrance, a tunnel towards the building, and basically, as we see this happening, Robin and the rest of the team, walk through the tunnelway, basically them getting directions. Now Robin thinks of, in this canon, thinks of just knocking out Bane, because he sees that Bane probably is gonna double cross them, but he has that backlash, not the backlash, but the back thought that probably not. Now basically, we get switched to pretty much a scene Bane showed them, or pretty much bring him into the area or the facility. Basically, Robin, going all stealthy, basically going through the pretty much facility. Him not being morphed, by the way, him just doing normal Robin stuff. And basically, we would see that the rest of the team, or Wally, would have ran in head first, basically following after Robin, and Robin would have taken down the pretty much pretty much the computer people that were there, basically breaking into the computer area. Him finding out about what they were doing, about how they were mixing the Blockbuster serum with the Venom serum that Bane uses, basically making a newer and more superior serum that would make a person almost like incredibly strong. Maybe even strong enough to actually give Superman a run for his money. Now basically, we'll see that, the man that was there from the helicopter would be Sportsmaster. Sportsmaster trying to work out a negotiation or a payment with the head of the Cobra. And, him, aka working for the light, just for future reference. Because if you haven't seen season 1 of Young Justice, why are you even watching this What If? And if you just haven't finished season 1 of Young Justice, just go and watch it and come back to this video. But basically, pretty much, we see that, as Megan was spying on them, her being invisible or camouflage, she would have sent a mental link or mental image to the team or Aqualad. Basically, Aqualad talking about this, and pretty much Bane having an idea to pretty much cause commotion, him jumping off from the, pretty much area they were hiding, him taking down some of the Cobra villains. Basically, one of them shooting out their guns, giving their position, and pretty much the villains showing up and, fighting against Aqualad and, pretty much, Connor. Now, as the fight would have progressed and they would have started to, fight back and forth, Wally's Robin would have seen this, and basically they would have shown up. Robin see that it was a huge shootout, him getting shot at, him dodging out of the way. But as we see this happen, we see that Robin would have said, why not? Basically him morphing into his Power Ranger form. Basically he would have jumped down Batman style, right from the Sportsmaster, as Sportsmaster is fighting somebody, him, fighting in hand-to-hand combat with Sportsmaster. Basically, Sportsmaster and him would have gone back and forth, punching, pretty much exchanging blows, but Robin's blows being a lot more devastating and giving off more damage. Basically, Sportsmaster being pushed back. But Sportsmaster would have taken out another baton that he threw, the same type of baton that he threw at Macon, pretty much him stabbing it in Robin's leg. Or not stabbing it, but almost cutting Robin's leg. Since the power grid would have, blocked his attack, Robin would have said whatever. Basically, kicking Sportsmaster into the ground and, going into the shadows. We see that he would teleport out of the building, him finding himself, in the way of the skinny girl that was basically, pretty much, escorting the leader of the Cobra. Basically, Robin would have been told by Aqualad to, retreat. Basically, him retreating and him leaving, basically teleporting right next to the door, or right behind a crate next to the door. Basically, him getting to the door, and us saying that Robin and the rest of the team would have been running down. Basically, then still barricading barricading the stuff behind them, keeping the rest, or pretty much the Cobra, at bay, pretty much blocking that area off. Now, as they would still argue about, who should be team leader, as they, block off the follow interests, or, the, path that the Cobra would have taken to follow them. Basically, they would still argue about who should be team leader. They would still argue who should be team leader, and pretty much Robin would have still, said that Aqualad should be team leader. And the, decision was set in stone. Aqualad was the team leader. And as we get switched to pretty much the team getting out of the, tunnels, after we get a little back and forth of the Cobra and Sportsmaster talking about what happened, we see that pretty much Robin would have been running down the tunnels, him still being in Power Ranger form, him still being morphed. Basically, we see that they would have ran into Bane. As we see this happen, Bane would have been, juiced up on Venom, and him also having a detonator in his hand, him setting up bombs in the tunnel, plan on, barricading the team in the tunnel. As you see this, Robin would have used, or Aqualad would have used his telepathic link to the team to pretty much tell Wally to initiate the plan, and Wally would have used his super speed to grab the detonator from Bane's hand, and pretty much we see the rest of the team would have, straight up just jumped Bane. And Bane would have been out for the count, him being taken down. Now, as the rest of the team would have made up their plan, pretty much we see that they would, record a full-on assault against, the Cobra. Basically, Wally, Kid Flash, Kid Flash and Wally are the same people. Kid Flash, Superboy, Aqualad, Robin, and every team member would have gone up. Now, Superboy and Megan would have still found themselves, dealing with Sportsmaster, and Robin would eventually came across, the Cobra leader. Basically, him being morphed, and this fight being actually way more even, or maybe even over, like Robin would have more of an edge. Now, Robin would have been fighting against the Cobra Master, him still being shocked that the Cobra Master barely put any effort into dodging his attacks or blocking them. But Robin would have, boosted up his skill, or would have gone a little bit more, serious, and would have started to throw kicks, punches, weaves, dodges, and actually would have started to, Cobra would actually start to get interested in this fight. Him fighting a very slight challenge at Robin's moves. Basically, him saying that you're strong. And as he said this, Robin would have thrown a sucker punch right towards Cobra's face, making him bleed, or like one drop of blood. Basically, Cobra saying, "What did you just do, boy?" And basically, Robin would have looked at him saying, "I beat you, and I'm gonna beat it again." Now, basically, Robin would have thought about this, him saying that I said something stupid, but basically, he would have just got back into a fighting stance, and they would start to fight. And Cobra, basically, he would actually start to square up. Actually get into kind of a Rocky type pose. Basically, him starting to fight Robin seriously. Now, as they were fighting, pretty much Robin and, Cobra would have been exchanging blows that were very, devastating to each other back to back. Basically, the pressure point is not really working on Robin, since he did have a type of, armor, plus the grid force, where the power grid would have been taking on the damage that his suit takes and charging it into the power grid. I don't really know what the power grid, because the power grid does take the damage that the Power Rangers take in battle, but, does it charge the power grid, or is it just transferred into the power grid? But I'm pretty sure it charges the power grid. But as we see, the fight progress, it gets switched by the rest of the team, and their mission or their fights go similar to the same. Megan's still blowing up the, helicopter Sportsmaster is in. Sportsmaster still being able to escape. And pretty much, the team, doing the same, or the whole episode having similarly the same outcome. As you see this happen, Robin would have been throwing more punches left and right. And as Robin and Cobra would have, thrown a punch that would be connecting both of their knuckles together, they would have pushed back, and Robin would have gone for a punch. Basically, him getting well decepted, him using his own, Cobra using his own strength against Robin, making Robin trip and fall, and Cobra kicking Robin in the back. And if it wasn't for Robin's, grid or power suit, or not power suit, but his Power Ranger suit, he would have had his whole spinal cord just cracked, because Cobra, straight up kicked Robin's spine, bro. But Robin, since he's a Power Ranger, he would have an extra coat of durability, saving him from this whole entire, almost being paralyzed thing. And basically, Robin would have gotten back up, trying to sweep kick Cobra. He would have jumped, and basically would have fell, or would have, pretty much, jumped right back down on Robin's foot, pushing Robin back down to the ground, almost breaking his bone, grabbing Robin from the neck or from the collar of his Power Ranger suit, him punching Robin in the helmet over and over, time and time again. The helmet being barely dented, but Robin feeling a little bit of the pain, since Power Rangers still feel most pain when they get hit or get attacked by they get attacked. Now basically, as Robin's, going through this little bit of pain, we see that the rest of the team would have shown up, backing up Robin. Code would have thrown Robin to the ground, and he would have backed up into the shadows. Robin would have tried to teleport into the shadows, but he would see that Cobra was already gone, and being incredibly confused. But as we see the team still progress and still see that, the whole, mission went down, and pretty much, they would have seen that they completely failed at the, covert mission. But we see that as Robin and the rest of the team are there, and they're being, judged by Batman. Batman would have gave him the same, the same outcome, or who would say that, you did good. The first mission doesn't always go as planned. Now, basically, as we see, the rest of the team, kind of, being happy by this, especially Aqualad and Robin, we're going to see that we could switch to Sportsmaster talking to the light. And as Sportsmaster was doing this, Sportsmaster would have mentioned Robin and the boy about how he has some sort of morphing power, that he's a Power Ranger. Basically, the light knowing about the Power Rangers, and pretty much one of the light members saying, Power Rangers, haven't seen them in centuries. Now, I'm going to leave it off here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. As always, guys, have a blessed day. Hope you guys have a, good weekend. And see you guys later. Bye. And as always, guys, be safe.